Would you recommend for kids on the spectrum, or neurodivergent kids, to have a separate system of education, or should our regular system of education, as we see around us, be expanded to, create space for these kids? What do you think is good for these kids?
Yes, so that's a very good question. So, Safia, we are social animals. We need social interaction, and that is what makes us humans. So, one of the identifying feature of autism is that they do not socially interact with people the way neurotypically developing people do, and they're just happy in their old world. But they do need certain sort of social interaction. So I'd say yes, we need to incorporate them in our general education classrooms. We need to better equip our teachers. We need to train teachers on how to understand if they think a child is on the spectrum or not. We need to have more resources, such as a separate classroom where the child can go. So I think it's better if we have the resources in our already in our general education schools, because the practice these days is that schools claim to be inclusive, but what they do is they provide a shadow teacher to the students, and that shadow teacher sits with the student in a general education classroom and helps the student do his or her work. So we can say that we're being inclusive. However, the child absolutely gets no chances of interaction with other students in the classroom, which is one of the most important things I think a school environment can provide: social interaction with peers, because this is how we learn a lot of things. So I think it's very important for our schools to develop the infrastructure and train teachers on how they can assess if a child how they can basically decide if a child needs to get assessed, and if they do have a child who's on the spectrum in their classroom, how can they develop an intervention strategy. Maybe have a school psychologist in the school who can assess the child and then develop an IEP, an individualized education plan. And then they decide on from there how much time the child would sit in the classroom, how much time the child needs to have group sessions with the peers, how much time the child will have pull-out sessions with one-on-one sessions with the teacher. So I think we're lacking over there. But then again, I would also say that if a child's behaviors are not harming other people or themselves, why do we change them? For example, if there's a certain repetitive behavior that a child does, hand flapping, or if a child always wants something in his hand to keep himself or herself calm, why do we want to replace that behavior? As long
Is
as
that
the
what's called
behavior,
stimming?
yes, we could call that stimming or stemming, yes. So a lot of parents, they want their child to not do these
But
behaviors,
why?
but because but why, yeah, I know. One of my students, he used to make some sounds, and honestly I thought if we train the child and teach the child, he could become a musician. He could do beatboxing, or I don't know what we call that. But I know if I suggested that to the parents, they would be like, no, that's not what we want for our child. We want the child to study and become a doctor and an engineer or whatever. So as long as the child's behaviors are not harming their own self or others, why do we want to change them? While teaching these students, we can't start with a mindset of wanting to change them or fix them. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they learn in a different way, and we need to understand. We need to teach ourselves what the appropriate way of teaching these students is.